registered. Now on to the webinar. Elevate Excel-based reporting with live SYSPRO data. I'd like to introduce our speakers today. We have Stephen Burns from Crawford Software, along with Michaela Cooper and Mike Wiley from Insight Software. I'll now pass off to Stephen to run us through and get started.
Great, thank you very much. Folks, my name is Steve Burns. I'm Vice President Sales and Marketing with Crawford Software. So a little bit about Crawford Software. We are a New Hampshire-based technology company, and for the past 21 years, we've been working with best-in-class ERP providers, such as SYSPRO. We are the only elite solutions partner in the Northeast. We also work with ISVs that enhance customer experience with SYSPRO. And Insight Software is a classic example of how to add value to the SYSPRO ERP system so the customers gain the most value and the best experience with the software. One more slide. So Crawford Software has been around for 20 plus years. We are just about at 40 employees. All of our consultants range in the 15 to 20 years of experience. Very much certified in the vendors that we represent. The methodology has been built really over 20 plus years of implementing ERP systems. I think one of the differentiators of Crawford Software is the fact that we implement multiple, and sometimes you can just see through the lens of the one ERP system that you represent. And I think what the value that we provide is that having implemented multiple ERP systems, it gives a broader perspective of what the customer needs when we sit down with a customer and trying to figure out what's the best solution for them. So we also build our own solutions. We have a development group, software development group that builds enhancements or standard solutions that add to the customer experience with ERP systems. And it's important to note that we run all versions of ERP systems that we partner with within our own data center. We use that for testing, for doing upgrades, and it really does give us a full perspective of how to dive down into each of those ERP systems. So I thank everybody from the Insight Software team for having us with you today. Appreciate the people that joined, and look forward to a nice presentation. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. I'll take it from here. As a way, we've done some introductions here. We're going to go over a little bit of why we love Excel and why that makes sense for you guys here, and the power of having a live data connection and the power it'll bring to you and your organization. And then we'll talk a little bit about our solution in action and that live data connection in our solution and how we can bring that to you guys. And then we'll have our closing remarks in our Q&A. So a little bit about us here at Insight Software. Essentially, our mission is to enable the Office of the CFO to connect and make sense of their data in real time. It's as simple as that. We have a variety of solutions here at Insight Software, but today, really, we're just going to be focusing on one of those solutions, and that's our flagship financial and operational reporting tool, Spreadsheet Server. So let's talk about the reality of Excel. So today, in talking about Spreadsheet Server, which is a reporting product, it leverages Excel as the interface into your data. Now, I think, why would we use Excel as the interface? The fact is, Excel is widely used across the globe. There are over 1 billion users of Excel today, and that's not going away, right? That's only going to continue to grow. 80% of executives around the world use spreadsheets daily to track and manage financial performance. And that has different levels to it. That could be a data dump, That could be the final result of, the reports. That could be a staging area to create additional information from those Excel spreadsheets. And in any case, 80% of global executives, have Excel involved at some step of the process, and that's a massive amount. 81% of users, must combine data from multiple spreadsheets into one report, according to our survey here. So now we all know what that leads to, and then that's a lot of human error. And relying on other tabs in our spreadsheets to create additional tabs, and that's not always the best scenario, right? So we're going to be talking a little bit today about how you can build one report encompassing all of the data that you need. And probably the biggest issue is this last point here in the number 5. And this is the average number of spreadsheets business users combine at one time. And the more tabs that you guys are adding, the more Excel referencing that's going on, the more chances that you guys are going to have an inaccurate template or referencing one tab to another. You guys are ultimately, the reality is that one of those tabs is going to be updated. Some new information is going to occur, and somewhere along the way, something's going to be misplaced, right? Adding time to this process, we're going to really help eliminate this whole process. We're going to eliminate a big challenge that you guys are having today. The overwhelming topic is going to be Excel, but it's going to be live Excel. So with the click of a button, you're going to be able to refresh as many tabs as you guys want. So if you want to keep 5, then keep 5. That's fine. But now we're going to make it update with the click of a button, adding time savings back into your work cycle, giving you back more time to analyze the data and not spending a majority of your time just creating these reports. So notice the first point here, and this is time savings. So going back into what I just said, so combining the data into an Excel format. So because you're already probably fairly comfortable with Excel, we're going to keep that foundation, but now we're going to keep it connected into the information that you already have. So we're giving you the best of both worlds. So you've got Excel on the left, your data and SYSPRO on the right. Now we're just meshing the two together, making it easier and faster to get that data into the way that you want it. So now you can analyze it in a much quicker manner. The majority of your time should be spent analyzing the data, right? Not doing the redundant task of just putting it into a format to be able to read it. So then that time savings now is leading into efficiency. So now you can answer the questions more quickly. So if somebody asked you to create an income statement yesterday, and now you need to update it today, now you have to walk through the same process in order to get the data there. Here it's just a click of a button. You just change the year, change the month, change the period, change maybe an invoice number, and the data automatically refreshes. So with Spreadsheet Server, it's a much quicker process. Next, the intuitiveness of the data. The answers now can be visualized. Once you have it in a format like Excel, you all know that Excel is really just very flexible with what you can do with it. We know that every one of our customers have different needs, and that's why Excel is so great. So creating the visual side of things, and then creating the basic data analysis side, and then ultimately combining the two together in one simple process is pretty easy, pretty seamless. And the most important reason is professional. So the fact that you can show results to your management, or maybe, you know, your C-level executive stakeholders, the board, you know, really anybody can take a look at these reports. It's really not limited to Excel. You know, you can convert these into PDFs. You can automatically distribute them with our built-in distribution feature. You can take a trip to Hawaii for 2 weeks, and they can automatically be sent out while you're on vacation. Wouldn't that be nice? But you know, ultimately, it's now just not the accounting department that's involved. It's everyone. So Excel, you know, it's like the comfort food for reporting professionals, and we're going to continue to leverage that with this process. And as we know, in today's environment, things change. I mean, shoot, I mean, at this point, things are changing so quickly. Things are changing on a weekly basis, sometimes daily. And we know, especially with our customers, especially in the manufacturing space, that you guys are having to change with them. So with these insights now, we are increasing, you know, you guys are increasing your response time, and you guys have to answer those questions quicker. And you guys have the power and flexibility to do it, especially with a tool like ours, and to be able to do it in Excel. So we're combining all the elements of utilizing your data in SYSPRO and utilizing Excel and our tool within Excel to do so. You know, even Excel personally, I use it even work related for projects. I use it personally in projects that I do, you know, for stuff with my kids, for my family. I mean, I'm using Excel spreadsheets all the time in some sort of fashion. I'm sure all of you guys are as well. So if you're going to continue to leverage that, which means this product, you know, really it's not intimidating, right? It's meant to be comfortable to look at quickly, understand it quickly, certainly implement it quickly, because it's that Excel foundation where we don't want to reinvent the wheel, right? We just want to make the wheel better. And that's what we're going to show you today. And all of our tools fit into the same process. So it's not that you don't have the data, you just have restrictions of how you're going to get to it. So we're going to make that easier for you. So the big three, you need to keep your eyes on when we talk about this product today, okay? These are the challenges that I'm guessing that most of you, if not all of you, are facing today. And one links itself to the other, all right? So the first is going to be the data connection. So as I mentioned, we are taking, we're taking is that Excel interface, and we're combining it with the SYSPRO side. So that's making it live datable, and it's refreshable in Excel. So take Excel, take your data, and we're combining the two together. So now we're pulling from your ERP into Excel. We're not breaking that live connection. These are not data dumps. These are data pulls. And as soon as you data dump in your current process, it's already out of date. With this process, it's always in date. It's as good as the data that sits inside SYSPRO. So that data connection leads to data integrity. And now that you've got your data in a live, refreshable manner, those data dumps, if you happen to make a mistake, those become instantly inaccurate. And if you've got multiple tabs and you start passing it around, those spreadsheets, I mean, everybody in the organization is now working off of incredibly inaccurate data, right? But with these products, you know, once you build them and you've connected them, that data is now very reliable because you're consistently pulling it in the same manner. There are checks that you can put in place to make sure the data ties back, and all types of functionality here. But the data connection here leads to that data integrity. So now, because you have better data integrity, you have better data analysis. You are now able to look at the numbers, have confidence in what you're looking at, and the fact that once you have created it, you now can rely on it. I mean, that's worth enough in and of itself to have that trust. And what does that ultimately lead to, right? That leads to better business decisions, quicker business decisions, like we talked about when things are happening in this market so quickly. We got to be able to be agile, and you can do it in a timely manner. And to repeat, because it's Excel, everybody can be involved here, not just certain sets of individuals. You can involve your entire organization, or key individuals in the organization can be a part of the process. And to dive a little bit deeper into the power of the live data connection, we have summarized here on this slide that focuses on what the different pieces are that really help elevate those challenges. So let's talk about real-time reports. That's going to be the primary focus of our discussion today. But because it's real-time, it mitigates the risk. Now we have a source of truth, a single source of truth. And because we are connected into SYSPRO, the data in your system is good. You just need to get it out. And while creating complex reports inside of your ERP isn't always the easiest thing to do, it's not Excel-based. It's not your comfort zone. Sometimes, it takes a little bit of a programmer, right? Somebody that's pretty well versed to be able to dive into it, to be able to pull that out, or to be able to analyze it. But because we have this Excel interface, you can use it as a single source of truth and get access to your information. Allow everybody in your organization to be able to make better data-driven decisions. And you can create the proactive analytics, which means you know where the business model needs to be. You can set trends. You can create trends. You can put all kinds of key indicators into those reports. Now, just making sure that you're meeting your goals and objectives. And certainly even basic budget versus actual reports, just keeping you guys in line within your organization. All of those things are very important. And we automate the processes, and ultimately, as I mentioned before, the biggest thing is going to be that time savings, immense time savings. And that's such an understatement here, because now you could create 50 reports. How would you like to be able to refresh those in a matter of seconds with a click of a button? That's what we're doing here. Creating 50 reports from scratch is not easy, but updating them with our product is absolutely key to this conversation. How many of you guys have, maybe lost some key finance people because they're overworked, they're tired? Making their lives a little bit easier with a tool like this, let's keep those folks. Let's make their lives a little bit easier, right? Now, we're going to talk a little bit about connection. So we have ERP connectivity smarts. In today's marketplace, we connect to over 140 different ERPs. We have a long-standing partnership with SYSPRO, and in fact, we've been named their ISV Partner of the Year. And it's a direct connection, which means there's no middleware, there's no cubing, no data warehousing involved. And yes, we get this all the time. We know the product's called Spreadsheet Server, but there's no server component. This is an Excel plug and play, so we reside wherever Excel resides today. So ultimately, as we have covered, it is an Excel-based application, which means it's easy to implement. It's a tool you're already familiar with, and you have the best of both worlds. You got data, you got Excel, and we're just combining both of them together. And we got pre-built reports. I've heard from many customers, especially many of my SYSPRO customers, that are very embarrassed by the way their reports look today. And we've got about 30-ish pre-built reports specific to our SYSPRO customers that we can provide to you guys. Obviously, it's not a requirement for you guys to use these. You can create your own. There is a report builder. We call it the formula builder with our product, but you can create your own custom reports as well. Those pre-built reports, they give you a quick return on your investment. Also help just put your reports into better shape if they're a little bit hard to be, if they're hard to, be understood, read by other people in the organization. And there's an automatic drill down functionality built into the product. So you don't have to create those, but it helps answer the questions as they arise. And then ultimately, once the reporting is complete, it doesn't mean that you should spend the next 2 days distributing. There is a feature called Distribution Manager involved with this product. Essentially just allows you to automatically send those reports. Those updated reports, even convert them into different file types like PDF documents. Therefore, automating from start to finish, from report creation to report distribution. This is what I was alluding to before, where if you want to take a nice vacation and you know that certain reports need to go to certain individuals, nobody would even know that you were gone because those reports would still get to those people at certain points throughout the week because through the report distribution feature. All right, now we're going to see Spreadsheet Server in action. I know this is the moment you guys have all been waiting for, so I'm going to hand things off to Mike to go ahead and dive into it.
All right, well, sounds good. Thank you there, Michaela. And just want to welcome everyone here once again. I am Mike Wiley. I'm one of our solution engineers on the Insight software team. And as far as our product, just as Michaela's been describing, it sits here inside of Excel. So you'll see that Spreadsheet Server is just right there at the top on my ribbon. So it really is just an extension to all the great things you can do within the comfort of Excel. But what this add-in allows us to leverage is a live, dynamic, and even drillable feed into our data. So back to our source, which is SYSPRO. So what that allows us to do here is we can now change parameters, things like the month, things like the year, maybe it's other filters by a division, a department, or some other breakdown of the structure. It's just a parameter that we can update to refresh our reports on the fly. Now, the way we accomplish this is through the use of formulas. So you'll see behind each of these cells, if we were to click around on any of them, there's a unique formula that sits behind it. Now, the good news is with the formula, you don't have to memorize it. You don't even have to write that out by scratch. The formula is just there to let you know that this is live, refreshable, even drillable data here. So we've seen the refreshing aspect, but to run a drill down, all we have to do is select a cell. So we'll just take merchandise sales here, for instance. Then we can utilize the drill down here on our ribbon to pull up the underlying information. So now we can see, we'll space out our screen a bit here, but now we can see the different accounts that net to that 49 million in our report. So the breakdown here is just the net that we're drilling into. But this is just your initial summary level. If we want to continue drilling, it's just a right-click path. We then have an ad hoc drill down we can run, and we'll be able to jump directly into the transaction detail. So we can jump down to our journals and see anything applicable at that level. We can even group the information here. So if we wanted to group by, say, the period, we just pull that value up, and then we can break down and see the underlying information. We can even turn on subtotals to say subtotal by that value so that when we collapse, we can then look at the different months going across. We could then even subgroup by something else. So maybe it's the line number, maybe it's the invoice type or the account, whatever it is. We could just drag another header up and expand the detail from here. So that's the power and benefit of the drill down. It's just quickly being able to get to those different levels of information all here inside Excel. So no need to flip back to SYSPRO. You can do all of that right here. Now, at the end of the day, what these formulas are being driven by are just some hidden parameters that are tucked in these just hidden rows and columns in the top left-hand corner here. Now, any formula is simply pointing to a database, so that's your company. It's pointing to other attributes like a balance type, whether it's actuals, maybe it's budgets. I believe SYSPRO has about 10 different budget codes you can flip through, so it's just a drop down you can choose from the list and pull those in. From there, we can look at different years. We can look at format types, whether it's the period, the quarter, year to date, life to date, even a range of months all wrapped up into one column. And then from there, of course, on the left-hand side, we have other attributes, things like the type, the group, the account codes, and we can separate these out in a variety of ways. So we can look at accounts on a singular level. We can look at it from a range perspective. We can do lists with a range. We can even do wildcards, where we could just use this asterisk and capture everything for that given bucket or that parameter to capture really a consolidated report. Now, the great thing about this is it really just is Excel. So if we wanted to insert another column here, we could do that. And then we could just track a simple variance. So we'll do one minus the other. We can then drag this down, and we could then just expand this into the rest of our report template. So we can take that formula, paste it down, and just copy back our formatting. So that's really the great thing about this. It's just Excel. It's something you're comfortable with and utilizing today, but it's very flexible. Now, on top of all of this, we do have a lot of pre-built reports that we provide. So this very report, along with all these others you'll see now on this home screen, these are just some templates to get you started. They're not necessarily, plug and play, but they are a great starting point, just something to give you some ideas, and they already have the formulas in them. You'll just need to put your accounts in on that left-hand side in that green column, and then the formulas will calculate accordingly. Now you'll see that we have reports on the financial side, but we also have a variety of other reports that go beyond. So the great thing about Spreadsheet Server is we're not limited to just financial data. That's what we've looked at so far and where we're starting. But the great thing is once we're connected, anything and everything in your database is fair game. And that's going to include custom tables, custom values. We're able to capture all of that here inside Excel. And maybe once again, to reiterate, contrary to the name Spreadsheet Server, there is no server component to this. This is just a live connection to the source. And we're using just a read-only connection there, reflecting the information there. So it truly is just a live querying functionality here. Now, with that said, we can look at a variety of other examples. If we wanted to say build a rolling 12 report, in this case here, all we're going to do is just drag this over a couple times, and you'll see here we've now just instantly created that rolling 12, and all that we're changing is just the period that we're updating across. So if we open up our parameters, that's really the key to this. It's just referencing, that's what's driving all of this at the end of the day. Now we could look at any other reports, any number of these, but it's really all one and the same, very similar, different concepts. But another example that may be good to look at is more of a forecast. So in this case here, what we've got is a standing of where we're at in the present year to date. So let's say we've now closed our books as of October. So now we're into November. So let's say we've closed it through October. So what our report's updating now to show is these are actual values. You see everything here is actual running through where we've closed. But then looking ahead, these are planned. And I've added some color coordinating effects here just to again, give us that nice visual to indicate that this is planned. But the cool thing is it's a parameter. So I could cycle through, look at maybe our current year budget. We could look at next year's budget. So we can look at how these impact our different projected year ends. So there at the far right is just a simple summation formula looking at our current actuals with our plan and then comparing that to our year-to-date total, which is a formula. So again, what's driving all this? It's just parameters. If we open these up at the top here, you'll see in this column here, this is our year-to-date budget. How did it know to pull that? Well, it's because it's a formula looking at the year-to-date and that current year budget. So it's all about the referencing. That's the key here. But these are just some of the different report examples. If we want to actually build one of these reports from the top, that's where the formula builder kicks in. So if we just take a blank report here and open this up, you'll see on the left-hand side, we have a number of formula types. And we also have two different groupings of these formulas. Now, what that actually means is that these top three formulas are general ledger only. So these are exclusively used to build, say, an income statement, a balance sheet, a cash flow, a trial balance. That's what these formulas are all about. If we open up the door for everything else and start talking about AP and AR, manufacturing, inventory, production, sales, just anything and everything else in the database, that's where these query formulas kick in. Now, as far as why we have different formula types, it's really just different ways to display the output. The first formula here is a summary value. That's the one we've looked at so far extensively. That's a dynamic summarized value. It's a balance that we can drill in on. The next formula is more of a detail-driven report. If you wanted to populate all of, say, your journal activity for a given period on a certain account or set of accounts, you could do that and have all of that detail displayed in a table of output in an Excel sheet rather than having to drill in on it. So it's just a different way to get to that end goal. But then we have other formulas that are relatively simple. This one here is just a quick way to reference the account number and return the account description. Or maybe it's referencing the company in the description or the department or division in their description. It's just a quick, simple way to capture that value and dynamically pull it back into our report. Now, overall here let's just say we want to build our own custom income statement. How do we go about doing that? Well, in our case here, first thing we're going to do is specify where we'd like to send the data. From there, we'll pick our connection. And this is really the important aspect. You'll see I have lots and lots of connections, even lots of different SYSPRO connections. So when I select my SYSPRO connection here, you'll see all the fields update to match that environment. What we call this here is just the configuration. You may hear terms like the profile. It's how we set up Spreadsheet Server to read and reflect your data. So in my case, for this connection, I have a company, a division, the account, a couple report indexes, the type and group. And I've also got balance type here to pull back those budgets. But then I have other SYSPRO databases where they're a little more simplistic. They're just utilizing a type, a group, and an account. So what this means is we're going to, again, tailor this to match and reflect your data so that everything is very seamless and very tailored for your organization. But that way, from here, we're just choosing from dropdowns. So whether we want actuals or budgets, which company or database we're pointing to. So if you have multiple companies, it's just a different database. From there, we could then select a point in time. And one other note on the database or company rather, so what that would look like to consolidate across companies, you just pull in one formula mapping to one company, and in the next column, pull in another and update the company, and then you could use Excel to consolidate. You could do a summation or variance or whatever it is you're trying to track. So we can do consolidated reporting on multiple company codes. But now from here, we'll then select our format. That's just going to be the output, whether it's the period, the quarter, maybe it's year to date or life to date to capture the beginning balance, or even just a range of months. Those are just predefined options. And then from here, we can designate our positioning and what values to actually filter by. So I'm going to put the account on the row. I'll also add the type and group. And then from here, I'm going to even search for, say, a company. So we could just do a quick search. There's my company. We could search for the division. We could even search for the account. So if I'm looking for cash, we could do a quick search, select the options, apply it, and now we've got our list of accounts ready to go. But in this case here, we're building an income statement, so we'll jump back to revenue accounts, and we're just going to take a nice open range here. So when I insert this in, you'll see that that's all it takes to generate a formula. Now from here, it is live, so we can update things like, say, that period, and you'll see that formula dynamically updates. From there, we can just copy and paste it to build out the rest of our example. So we'll just take another range here for our expense accounts and maybe capture everything else that might be in left. So we'll call this revenue, call this expense, call this other, and then from there we could track, say, a net and just do a relatively simple calculation. So we'll do the top one minus, minus the others. And then from there, you'll even notice the revenue came in as a credit or just this negative value. That's typically how the database stores it. All we have to do is apply a negative sign in front to correct that. So the cool thing about these formulas is, though they're long and relatively complex looking, we can still treat it like an Excel formula. So we could divide it by a factor of 1,000. We could do some other complex formula, if errors and other things. So you can wrap these into other combinations. But now once we've got the structure set up, it's just copy and paste the rest of the way. So whether it's a comparative report that we're trying to build, maybe it's year over year. So we could say do 2017 and 2018. Again, just doing a very simple formula. But that's all there is to it. We could then look at, say, the year to date on the end. We could look at the quarter if we want to, and in this case, it'd be Q2. And as Michaela described earlier, because this is Excel, we can also leverage the visuals that it allows for. So we can then apply charts and graphs and other things in here to better define our reports. And the cool thing is we can change this on the fly. So I could look at year to year, we could then apply actual to budget and then compare. So it's very flexible in terms of what we can do with it once we've got that formula there. The key is really bringing in that formula once. The rest of it's just Excel. And then from here, we can apply things like a division, maybe division 10, division 20, and compare. So really, that's the flexibility. That's the strength that Spreadsheet Server has to quickly get to these different levels and quickly report on these. So from here, maybe to show another just quick example on multi-company. I know I touched on this a bit, but maybe just to give you the visual here. You can see in this case, I have 3 different SYSPRO company codes, and then even some legacy data pulling in from a separate just SQL database that I have. So we could treat that like rollover data from when you migrated to SYSPRO, or maybe it's just historical data you have in some other database. We can connect to that as well. It's a different connection, but not a problem. And then from here, again, it's just about the referencing. So as I described, the company code, that database is going to update, and everything else is just going to refresh accordingly. So now, again, we can change parameters and everything updates. And then you can see from here, we can consolidate, which is really just going to be a summation looking across for all those values. So that's the big thing here, is that if there's data in your system, we can capture it, we can reflect it, and the best thing is you can drill in on any of these formulas as well. So that's the financial aspect of it. But there's all these other formulas and reports that we can dive into. So maybe to give you some insight there, for us, again, it's all just data. So when we look at that formula builder, just once again, we've got all these additional query formulas to expand on to get to these different layers of information. So if you want to report on AP and AR or inventory, purchase orders, sales orders, manufacturing, anything else in your database, that's where those query formulas kick in. So to give you some ideas of what that looks like, we could jump in and take a look here. But in this case, what you're going to see is a lot of the same themes and concepts. On the left-hand side, I've got parameters. So we could update things like the date range, maybe it's the job. We can then also reference those parameters to our summary formula, which is dynamic. So if we were to plug in some added, added parameter sets, those formulas on the right are now going to update. So you can see they refresh to pull in and reflect that job range here. We change that once again to maybe jobs in the 150 range, hit enter. Once again, it's going to refresh because we applied that parameter. Now down below, you'll see we haven't updated the just data in this table quite yet. We're still looking at that 140 range. I've even got 500 here, 604, different jobs. The reason is the detail side just requires one extra step. You'll see I've got a separate formula down here. It's just our detail version of the formula, and it's referencing those same parameters. There's just one extra step. We just have to run it. So all there is left, just click that run here. We've even got an option on the ribbon to do the same thing, to run that detail report. But now we can dynamically look at the data in different ways. So we can look at, going back here, run it again, and that range is going to update to match that new parameter input. Now, at the end of the day, what we're leveraging here are queries. Tucked away inside this formula is this .edq file. That is actually a query that was designed in our query designer here. Now, the designer is reserved for our highest level licensed user, so not everybody's going to need to know how to design queries. It may just be one or a couple users in an organization, and they can create the queries for everybody else to leverage and benefit from. But the designer's where that happens. Within it, you can select any table in your database or view. You can drag and drop to join across those tables, and you can join across any number of tables. You can then select fields of output, which are really just the columns you want in the report. From there, you can also assign parameters, things that we can filter by to drive and update the data here in Excel. So if I wanted to add like the actual start date or the plan completion date or like a status or something else as a filter, I could do that, and we could have added fields here to filter by, but we just have to change the underlying query to get there. Alternatively, we could add new columns to this, or maybe I could remove some. If I don't need the actual start date and I just want to look at completion date, I could delete it. We could remove that from the report, but that's going to be done in that query design phase. Now, just to reiterate, with that designer, you don't have to be able to write SQL. We take care of that aspect for you. It's automatically generated in the background as you select and drag and drop 4 different values. So there's no SQL requirement to be able to leverage it. All you have to do is just be able to, pull in a table, double click on some fields, and you're off and running and building a query. Now with that, we can look at lots of different reports here. You'll see we have a fair number to dive into, but let's say it's inventory sold, just different flavor here, different way to look at it. But once again, we've got parameters, we've got summary values, and then the detail below. Now we've also got this search formula that we can leverage to quickly search for a product. So if we're looking for, say, finished goods or mountain bikes or whatever it is, we can insert it. You'll see those values update. We can then rerun the report, and now we can see the 19 rows that are dynamically produced within our statement here. So that's the power and benefit of that designer. And we can look at any number of reports, whether it's AP detail, so we can get all the detail values and scroll across and see lots of data. Maybe it's just an aging where we want to look at the different buckets for days 1 to 30, 31 to 60, and so forth. All of these report templates here are, again, they're provided. So we give these to you as a starting point. So everything you see, you'll be able to leverage, modify. But behind each of these, there's actually a query. So on top of just the templates, you're also going to get about 30 queries. There's a few more in here than just what's displayed. About 30 queries to leverage right away. So those are things that just a little bit of tweaking, you'll be able to connect it to your database, you'll be off and running, and you can tweak and modify these on the fly. So that's really just showing some of the potential of what we can leverage here. Now, on top of all of this, we also have a distribution manager to send the information out. So you'll see on the far left here, I've got another tab. This has just a list of users or locations that I want to send reports to. And this is all centered around getting the information into those users, those hands that need it, so they can visualize and understand their numbers. So that's what this distribution piece on the ribbon is all about. Now, the way this works is we're just creating a list of who's getting reports, how they're getting it, and what they're ultimately going to get. So we can designate right here how we're sending it, whether it's through email or to a printer, even just publishing it to a file location. From there, you can assign the user, which has an email address behind it. If you're using, Active Directory, you can just type in the name, or you could also just type in their email, either one. Ultimately, when we send these out, it's going to be sent from me to those users as a live email from my email address to theirs. So if you do choose email, it's not going to come through Insight Software. It's not going to end up in spam or junk. It's just going to be a live email from me to that recipient. But from there, we can then pick and choose how we want to send it, whether it's going to be an Excel file we want to send, maybe it's a PDF or just a Word document. From there, we can pick and choose which reports within this workbook we want to send. So if we just want them to get one report, maybe it's a couple, maybe it's everything, you can pick and choose what they're going to get. You can also right here designate restrictions. So we could restrict the users to a certain company or maybe a division or maybe a product or warehouse or something else, or even a date range. So we can restrict what they're able to see. So for certain cells within the workbook, you can restrict those down. Now, the biggest piece in this equation is this conversion column. This is ultimately where you decide how they're going to receive the data. So for anyone that's receiving one of these workbooks or reports here or anything, if they're going to be able to refresh and drill into it, they need to have one of our license types. And there's a couple different license types for different fit and function, but ultimately they just need a license to be able to drill down and refresh. All of the licenses can do that. If the recipient does not have a license, that's okay. You can still send them data. It's just that you're going to want to send them a static version of the data. And we can do that through converting just our spreadsheet server formulas or all formulas. And what that's ultimately going to do, if we just take a look, we could look at, say, my forecast, that's fine here. What we would need to do is convert it, which the distribution manager can automatically handle, but you can manually do it right here too. It's going to do the same thing. So we could do this for the whole workbook or just the sheet. But what you're going to see happens is that all these values that were once dynamic, these are just numbers. So all of these are just a number of value that you don't need a license to see. You just need to be able to open Excel, or even more specifically open up, say, a PDF. PDF's just a PDF. They can't change that. So that's what the conversion option allows for. It's a way that you can send reports to lots of users en masse and not require all of them to have a license. Now, at the end of the day, this distribution manager, you're just going to build out your user lists. If you've got a lot of like-minded users, you can then just copy, paste, and modify on screen and set these up. But when you're ready to distribute, you can select certain rows, distribute those out, and it's going to push them out, send it accordingly. You can also just distribute all right here and send it to everybody. And there's even a scheduling component. It's really like a calendar where you can set up these to go out daily, weekly, monthly, multiple times a day, any different offset cycle, like the first and the 15th of every month, maybe it's the first Wednesday of every month. Whatever it is, you can designate a frequency for these to be pushed out in automatically so that you don't have to worry about it. It's just gonna go out on the fly like Michaela described earlier. So you can be out on vacation and these reports are gonna go out dynamically. But overall, that's really end-to-end everything that Spreadsheet Server is all about. And really appreciate everyone being here, the attention and just the time. And we're really excited to keep the conversation going and answer any and all questions that you have. So with that, I'll pass things back over, I guess back to Michaela, I think.
Yes, thank you, Mike. Appreciate your demo. And from here, we just want to reiterate that Excel really is a powerful tool. really, it is finance's baby, right? Everybody in finance, they love Excel, but we want to extend it much further outside of finance. We want everybody within the entire organization to be able to utilize the data out of SYSPRO, out of the system, and be able to make better data-driven decisions. So that way you guys can be more agile and be able to move forward with your business as needed. And that live data connection, that's really what sets us apart. Being able to unlock those business insights and be able to grow. And with your profitability, having that access is key here. So with those thoughts, feel free to reach out to us or the folks over at Crawford if you do have any other further questions or information for us. But we appreciate your time and look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.